Hey guys, what's up? This is week 320. I have a handful of reviews for you and a couple films for the update, so let's hop into this. The first one up is from Radiance Films, and this is The Iron Prefect, and this is by the same director as The Climber, a Euro crime film with Joe D'Alessandro. This has Giuliano Gemma in it, who should be no stranger to any fan of Italian cinema. He's in stuff like Day of Anger, where he plays kind of like a youngster. I believe he's in the Ringo spaghetti western films. And Day of Anger, he plays opposite of Lee Van Cleef, and he does a really good job. It's a really good film. In fact, you might recognize the score on that one if you've watched his channel quite a bit. He's also in Tenebrae, for you horror fans out there, where he plays kind of a idiotic kind of police officer who's really great in the film and kind of basically solves the crime without knowing it at certain points. So The Iron Prefect, I had actually not really heard of this film. I believe it's also called I Am the Law. It's from 1977, around the same year as The Climber, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a strange one. This feels definitely like these kind of like you're kind not, I wouldn't say vigilantism, but cops who kind of go way above and beyond what they're supposed to do, breaking the laws at times just to be aggressively against crime. And it's not a straight up, vigilante film or a crooked cop film or anything like that, in the vein of, Maurizio Merli movie or something like that. It's more kind of just how your hands are tied, and really no matter what you do, you're kind of screwed, which reminds me of the Convoy Busters, which just came out a little bit ago from Cauldron Films. So essentially Giuliano Gemma is a prefect, and he moves in and he wants to crack down on the mafia. He's just disgusted with what he sees, how they handle themselves, how aggressive they are and everything. So at first he's coming in kind of throwing his weight around, and you really don't know where he sits, and he's talking about being a lot of corruption and everything like that. And it gets really interesting. And it's funny, he has like a wife in the film, but they don't really focus the female like kind of lead role in this is more focused on a small townsperson. And the small townspeople suffer the most. They suffer from the police officers, they suffer from the prefect, they suffer from the mafia. Everywhere they look, they suffer. At one point you kind of understand that, because if you speak out, you're punished by the mob or killed outright. There's a really brutal scene of a family being killed because they spoke against the mafia. But right when Gemma is on screen, he's pretty electric. He's really solid in this film. He doesn't look like himself. They gave him like a weird haircut that he doesn't typically sport. And I'm so used to seeing him as kind of like the handsome lead. The either kind of dumb-witted character or naive character, but still yet a little full of like charisma and athleticism. And this one, he has that stern look. It's a strange role for him, but this is a really good film. It's a gorgeous looking film too. The cinematography is top notch. The setting is wonderful because you see the small towns in Italy and everything. And there's a great kind of like a standoff scene in the early beginnings of the film. But as he kind of climbs the ladder, you kind of see him go from almost heroic type to disliked from everybody to villain. Not even villain, but just almost in the point where you get sucked into the system so much that you become a part of what you were against in the first place. Really interesting film. I can't see anybody disliking this one, and interesting too. It's more of like a political thriller in that aspect, but it does have like the tinges of Eurocrime as well. As far as the special features are concerned, we have interviews with director Pasquale Squitieri and star Giuliano Gemma, new interview with biographer Domenica Minetti, and Alex Cox appreciation on Gemma in the film. That's great because Alex Cox, of course, is a director, did a lot of cult films like Sid and Nancy, Repo Man, Straight what is that one? Straight to Hell. I was gonna mix it up with the Hammer film Straight Till Darkness. But Straight to Hell, and he's a spaghetti western enthusiast. It'd be hard pressed to find somebody that knows more about spaghetti westerns than him. And he talks about Gemma, he talks about his career, he talks about a lot of the other leading men in Italy and whatnot. And he brings up I love his ending to his story because it's perfect. He kind of brings up the print the legend, not the story about Gemma, and that just kind of fits his whole demeanor, right? Being a big fan of the Western film, and they always say print the legend, not the story. But he gives a nice little insight on Gemma and this film in general, and he throws out a lot of other things about personally meeting Gemma. But great film, a gem. A true gem. And I never had heard of it. There's so many films out there, like I said, that they either pass you by, you're not too sure what they are, or it takes companies like Radiance Films, or any of these other ones coming out and putting these kind of rare gems out. So this is a good one, The Iron Prefect. Okay, the next one here we have from Cult Epics, and this is from the Netherlands, and this is A Question of Silence, 1982. Very interesting film. A lot of these kind of films from this area, they have a unique look. Like I said, Cult Epics really specializes in putting a lot of these out, especially some of the more interesting ones, and they really don't let you down. So, A Question of Silence, boy, this is a great one. And what was the movie that Radiance Films put out a bit ago about the serial killing woman? I can't remember the title. A Woman of something. That one would go perfect double feature with this one. That one's from '68. This one's from '82. But kind of fitting in that line, this is a bizarre film, and it opens up kind of with these three different women and the cops picking them up. But the one woman is picked up in her like bakery, her butcher shop where she works, and she's jovially joking with men. She's like, "Oh, I took somebody out, I killed them," yeah, laughing, and you kind of get her personality right there. And these cops come in and arrest her. And you find out that they bring in kind of a psychiatrist, like a female psychiatrist, to figure out why these three women committed an atrocious act. And as she starts to talk to them, she realizes that none of them knew each other. It was unprovoked attack, but was it unprovoked? Was it unprovoked in the terms of that actual person, or was it, more of a outlash on society, on the patriarchy, that kind of thing like that? And it goes to this courtroom kind of drama, and you get flashes of their past, and you have interviews with the people that were in their lives. And this is going to be a really weird thing to compare those two, but I would compare it to Hisiasa Sato's Splatter Naked Blood, not in the terms of gore or violence, but the aspect that you have these three different women from three different walks of life that all kind of take part in this experiment. They are taking part in a crime, and you kind of see how they deal with the crime. Some in silence, some other ways, and some in food and comedy, and they put up facades, or they just have these certain character traits about them and what they do. And they're three different women from three different walks of life that decide to carry out this crime, and what the courtroom says. And there's also the whole farcical courtroom drama stuff going on, which is great. And I don't mean farcical like comedy, but it just makes the whole trial a farce in the eyes of a lot of people. But this is way ahead of its time in terms of, I guess, like, saying like a feminist statement, or basically not even that, just how society is for a certain group, 50% of the population. But anyways, it's just interesting to watch and see another country kind of tackle it. It's just bizarre and different and really good, and the structure is great. They leave you with a lot of questions, and there's a big thing that comes up with the psychiatrist and her husband, and she starts to question other things and witnesses as well. This is a great film. Much better than I would have thought. I really didn't know what to think. The title caught my eye and everything, and I was like, sounds pretty interesting. And Cult Epics is a really interesting company. Sometimes they put stuff that's way too intelligent or way too, geographically located in a certain aspect, like a lot of their culture and stuff, that goes way over my head. This one I didn't. I thought I grasped as much as I could, and it was really good stuff. So as far as the special features are concerned, we have audio commentary by film scholar Patricia Pisters, interview with director Marleen Gorris, 82, interview with actress Cox Hablin, Polygon Journal newsreel, and promotional gallery and whatnot. And I believe this is the director's first film, so coming out with a bang, and A Question of Silence. Okay, next one up, we have one from, 1992, if I'm not mistaken, a Full Moon here. This is Netherworld, and this is directed by David Schmoeller, who did, of course, Puppet Master and Tourist Trap, two really kind of, Charlie Band produced staples, and, he's a good director. He also did, Crawl Space with Klaus Kinski, and he's the director that famously said, "Please kill Mr. Kinski." So here we go here. This is Netherworld, and this was like a early 90s one, Full Moon video store staple. I always remember the cover art, but you know what? This is one that somehow passed me by after all these years. So I put this in, and we had like this kind of, Louisiana style, I wouldn't say voodoo story, but in that kind of vein. There's so many different aspects and sex in that religious kind of stuff that I don't know, sangria, voodoo, hoodoo, I don't know all the details and everything, and it kind of is in that kind of vein, in that kind of world. The biggest actor in here for me was Robert Sampson. Robert Sampson's in Stuart Gordon films, Reanimator and Robot Jocks, and he pops up in Dark Side of the Moon. Really good actor. He's a solid, good character actor. actor. So essentially we have kind of a classic tale here where a young guy is basically told that you're going to inherit your father's estate. It's this giant mansion, and all sorts of weird kind of shady characters are surrounding him, including this lady that runs the local prostitution den. And she's kind of interesting, and in the very beginning you can tell that she obviously dabbles in some supernatural elements involving birds and giant kind of weird hands that look like that come off walls and have little mouths on them, kind of something out of like the stop motion or Hellraiser world, something along those lines. Very David Schmoeller, I guess you would say. So he has these characters that are all around him, including a couple oddball ones, the lawyer, and some other people as well. And he soon starts to read his father's journal, and they're talking about reincarnation and everything like that. And you kind of get that aspect. Now, this isn't the first film to do that, of course. Later, we'd have stuff like The Skeleton Key or Get Out. This idea of people, the super rich, kind of putting their bodies into other people. And that's what we have kind of going here. Think Brotherhood of Satan from 71, and I'm sure if you go back further and further, the Suspiria remake. Probably spoiling all these movies here. But there's just that aspect, right? That the rich or the powerful want to live forever. They want to transport their body into something younger. We have an episode of Tales from the Crypt like that directed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, right, where the old man sells his fortune to be younger. So it's just an aspect, but this is a little different because, like I said, it incorporates a lot of birds and people actually kind of turning into birds, and there's some fun special effects. A lot of these full moon movies from the early 90s, they really feel like good episodes of Tales from the Crypt, like an hour and 15-minute long Tales from the Crypt episodes, and I have no problem with that. The lead was okay. He's not an actor that I think he's a TV actor, possibly, just not one I was very familiar with. There's a decent amount of nudity, of course. There's sex. You can't go wrong with that in a full moon video store classic in Netherworld. So this one's solid. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again. Very easy watch. A lot of these, it's just kind of comfort food. These anything full moon up until a certain point is comfort food for me. I just enjoy watching them. I like them. I grew up with them. Video store staples. And I feel the same way about Tales from the Crypt. And this director, I need to pop in Crawl Space. I don't know if I've ever watched Crawl Space, but Tourist Trap is really great. And Puppet Master obviously had, spawned so many sequels and so many franchises and all that kind of stuff going on. But Netherworld, it looks really good too, and the surround sound was great. It's I think a 5.1 mix on here. I really do dig that because maybe it's not a 5.1 mix. So a lot of times they do that. They do have a 5.1 because I will say this, and out of all the Blu-rays and stuff I get, Full Moon usually has, the newer ones they're putting out, has a good surround mix. Like, they do a solid job on that stuff, and a lot of them don't know. They have the original audio, which is what people want, but got to give it up to Full Moon for their sound mixes on their newer releases. I think they're pretty solid. They, of course, have the original video zone, which is great, like some interviews with people on the set and whatnot, and how the story came to be. The director is actually in the movie as a bartender, but the prostitution den definitely remind me of something right out of the 90s Tales of the Crypt stuff, Bordello of Blood, the movie, all that kind of stuff there. Just very, very 90s, very fun. Look, a little cool monster on there too. I'd recommend Netherworld. It's easy watch, easy. You'll enjoy yourself. Okay, I'm going to be very brief with this one because I feel like an absolute jackass here. We have Scream Team releasing. We have Beneath the Old Dark House, and this is an anthology, and I like the cover, and the director, I know that there's nothing but like heart and soul into the movie. It doesn't come across as like kind of like a half-ass kind of cash-in or anything like that. And being a low-budget anthology, I got to take my hats off for the fact that it looks really solid. Cinematography is good. The score is pretty excellent. The stories are okay. That's kind of the weak point for me, and that's nothing. A lot of people dig these kind of more story types. They're very kind of basic stories, and that's very typical in an anthology. But the cinematography is good, the music is good, and the light, all that stuff is pretty solid for a low budget film. The one thing is, and I also give it out, is that all the same filmmakers made the shorts, which is great in a low budget anthology, because so many times you pop in a low budget anthology and it's like 4 different guys and they took 4 different shorts. They have nothing to do with each other. They never knew they were making an anthology, and it's just a sloppy mess. And sometimes you'll see the same short in 4 or 5 movies, and you're like, come on, guys, stop it. We get it. You want to sell this short. But as far as this one is concerned, we have basically kind of 3 stories. At first, we have this, Coffin Tooth. And I wanted to keep calling him Coffin Baby because isn't that the character in Toolbox Murders remake and the sequel? So Coffin Tooth is this strange character, and he has kidnapped this girl. And in the very beginning, it's kind of like you assume she's like a prostitute. And right away, there's lots of butt shots in here. Lots of girls' butts shot and underwear and all that kind of stuff. There's a decent amount of nudity in this film, especially on a low budget movie, but that tends to happen in some low budget films. So basically, what happens is she's kidnapped and she's forced to watch these kind of tapes that this coffin tooth has, and he's very kind of a strange, kind of weird dancing creature, kind of gross looking, scarecrow-esque according to the director in the commentary. But so they go on. We kind of see three stories, and a couple of them one's about a stalker. One seems to be more like a haunted kind of doll story. And that's kind of it. Like, the stories don't stand out too much. There's the haunted doll that's kind of like in the Annabelle style story kind of deal, and then of course there's the kind of stalker that's following this girl around and having these delusions of grandeur with her and all this kind of stuff. None of them really stand out to be anything exceptionally like interesting as far as originality is concerned. And that's kind of the weak point. Like, the only weak point is really the script for me, and it's not terrible. Like I said, it's just very basic in terms of the storylines and stories like that. But hey, it's an anthology. That's a great way to kind of try a bunch of different things. To be brutally honest, that's a good way to do it. And like I said, there's nothing like, it's not a lazy movie. You don't pop it in and think like, oh, this was a cash in or something, or this is like Amityville Ouija board Bigfoot ape monster. Where they're like, I'm gonna cram as many tropes and kind of fads in here as possible so that it gets in Redbox and everybody runs it. That's definitely not this. So I know a couple names in here. Kaylee Williamson. She's a good actress. Seen her pop up in a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not Brink Stevens, of course, too, in the last one. It's not a movie that I would say is doesn't have heart. But it also is nothing that does anything too special for me in terms of the stories. Like a lot of low-budget movies, they can get really good cameras at times, and they can have good technical stuff, but sometimes the scripts just lack for me, and that's just maybe I've seen 8 million trillion movies, and I'm holding it against it. But regardless, I would definitely check out Matt Cloude's other films when he makes them, and I know he's made a couple more, so I'll definitely check out a newer one of his if he does make another one. So it's Beneath the Old Dark House. I want to make sure I say the right thing. And listening to the commentary, he's clearly a horror fan. He makes references to a lot of horror films, so I know that he is one of us, so it's hard. That's why I hate reviewing or talking about independent movies a lot of times, because if I don't have positive feelings, I try to be as honest as possible without coming across as a complete and utter douchebag. I mean, I understand. I've been in independent movies. I made independent movies, and a lot of them are worse than this. So. Okay, the next one up is from Mondo Macabro, and we've been waiting a long time for this one. This is Dr. Caligari. Yes, it has on 4K and Blu-ray. That's right, both. So if you missed out on the 4K, can't get it anywhere, the Blu-ray is going to be widely available soon. So Dr. Caligari is made by the same people that made Cafe Flesh. They come from kind of a porn background. And the thing about Dr. Caligari was it was supposed to be kind of like a weird sequel to Night Dreams, which I believe is a porn film. And this is a bizarre movie. It had a cult following. It was made in 1989. It was released on VHS and Laserdisc, and not really released very, very much after that. There was kind of a gray market DVD that used to float around, which I probably have somewhere. And I never watched the entire film in its complete, length. I've seen bits and pieces. I've put it in here a couple times, and I know Marcus Cook is a huge fan of the film. But obviously inspired by The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, the silent classic horror film. But it's such a weird, twisted, bended kind of movie. Like I said, it definitely has that kind of weird, surreal quality about it, dreamlike kind of quality, scientific experiments gone wrong. But it's also a brightly colorful movie. If I had to say it has one thing in common with besides that stuff mentioned, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, it's that the sets are immaculate in this movie. They're so well thought out and weird and just bonkers and off the wall. I feel like it does share some DNA with stuff like Rocky Horror Picture Show, Shock Treatment, Forbidden Zone, all those kind of out of this world kind of movies, which are all movies that Marcus mentioned in his secret top 10, So yeah, this is totally up his alley. So what we have here is Dr. Caligari, and she's performing all these weird kind of experiments and mental games on this patient, and this patient is a nymphomaniac. Her husband clearly does not like it, wants it to stop, but soon enough, Dr. Caligari kind of runs amok because she's the household name in this hospital. Everybody knows her. That's where their bread comes from. Their moneymaker. And the doctor, played by, what is his name? Something Fox, who died before the movie was released, actually, and he's in a slew of movies. You'd recognize him. He's a really good good actor, character actor. He basically doesn't want to do anything about it because he knows that he'll lose the clout in the hospital. But his kids are on to Dr. Caligari, and they want this insanity to end. But it's going to get really freaking weird before that. There's explicit nudity, there's weird sexual stuff going on, and I have to mention the cannibal character who plays a serial killer who's in the hospital as well. And he's actually played by the zombie in Return of the Living Dead, who says, "Send more paramedics," because he's got such an iconic look, and the way he delivers his lines when he's about to get electroshock therapy is one of the most bizarre, strange performances. Unhinged, completely unhinged. The movie is just all around completely unhinged, but also really excellent and weird, and just a perfect midnight movie. It has all the elements of that stuff without over trying or just feeling like it's trying too hard. It just is what it is, and it does have kind of that like porn stink to it, but it adds to a great element on there. As far as the special features are concerned, the Blu-ray and DVD both have the same. I meant the 4K and Blu-ray both have the same. If I can get it out of the slipcover here. There is a commentary with the director, Steven, I can't think of his name right here. I'll just read him off the Blu-ray. The slipcover's a little tight. With the director, Steven Sayadian. And then we have an interview with the director as well. Interview with Madeline Reynal. Interview with Laura Albert. Interview with co-writer Jerry Stahl. And they all have fond memories of the director and making the movie. And they mention like a lot of the special effects, the pus, the weird tongue coming out of the wall. I mean, this is like surreal sex nightmare, insanity, absurdity, comedy. It's great stuff. I can't recommend this movie any more than it was a gem. I really loved it. The work of true visionaries. Kevin Thomas, LA Times. That's a big name to do that. So anyways, really check this one out. Dr. Caligari, great stuff. Okay, the next one up is from Vinegar Syndrome, another 4K from 1987, and this is Night Screams. There we go, Night Screams. And this had an old Omega Image DVD from the Nico Macarakis production company, I believe. And this is a slasher, a later-day slasher film here. And you know what? I actually had never seen this one in its entirety. What we have here is right in the beginning, we have a couple watching Graduation Day. You see a couple inserts. And then they are murdered while trying to prepare dinner. We fast forward a little bit. Now we kind of are introduced to our main characters. We learn that there's a mental patient that has escaped almost pretty quick. There's a crazy violent shootout with these criminals killing some people at a diner and a couple cops. The squibs are real nasty. And then we kind of meet our main characters, and it's kind of a football team and their girlfriends and everybody in the surrounding area, like 5 or 6 kids and their girlfriends and whatnot. And they're deciding to have this big house party. And the main character is struggling with a lot. He has medication that he takes, and his dad is shoving him into this football scholarship he really doesn't want. So the stress is insane. His girlfriend is a little unnerved as well, doesn't like the friends. And then we have a lot of catty, rude friends involved that are all sexed up, using this guy for his wine and his sauna, all this kind of stuff like that. Of course, the criminals show up and they start picking people off, but there's something else going on behind the scenes, right? How much can all this... There's got to be something else with all these characters' problems and all that, right? So basically, Night Screams here. It is a really kind of fun slasher film. The body count is 19, count them, 19 kills or something like that, like 15 to 17 kills. It's ridiculous. I want to say it was 19, but I'm not 100% sure. I just know that tons of people got shot or stabbed. Some of the death scenes are pretty solid. I mean, of course, you got the infamous cheeseburger or the burger on the stove death. Yeah. Somebody gets killed on the stove. You got the carjack stuff. Anyways, this is a pretty solid film. The 4K looks great. It sounds great. It's just always impressive what Vinegar Syndrome can do with these movies, these cheap, low-budget movies, and make the 4Ks look amazing. It's awesome. But so we have here is... We have the 4K disc. Contains the 85-minute theatrical cut of Night Screams, presented in HDR, newly restored from the 35 original camera negatives with the following sound option, stereo soundtrack, and brand new audio commentary track with Alan Plone and cinematographer Eric Anderson, moderated by special features producer Ewan Catt. And then we have 2 Blu-ray discs. The Blu-ray contains everything on the 4K, but it also has Blood and Chopsticks, which is an hour and 20-minute making of, which was nice to see them talking about making this movie in Wichita, Kansas, getting some actors from LA or California, and then filling in the rest of Wichita, having some, kind of shout-outs to people that passed away, all that kind of stuff. And then we have a brand new making of documentary featuring interview. Oh, that's basically that. And then we have, of course, the second Blu-ray disc contains the reconstruction of the 80-minute pre-release cut of Night Screams, along with an introduction by executive producer Richard Caliendo and producer co-director Dillis L. Hart II. So we have the version without the Graduation Day inserts as well. So completist, don't worry, you get all the Night Screams you can handle. All right, guys, we're going to hop into those 1981 movies.
Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway, evil will invade the world.
Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born, all the shock and the horror was there. Oh, the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago.
And the first one up is directed by legendary Schlachtmeister Bruno Mattei. The year before he did Hell of the Living Dead, now he moves right on to the other hell. And this actually stars Franca Stoppi in it, fresh off Beyond the Darkness from '79, the Joe D'Amato movie. She's excellent in that. She's excellent and creepy in this one. This is an unsploitation movie. Also has a couple other familiar faces in here. I know I'm forgetting the guy from Hell of the Living Dead, Zardana, whatever his name is in here as well, as kind of a groundskeeper at the monastery, and he's ridiculous in this film. So basically what we have here is, right in the beginning of the film, we have this nun just spouting all this stuff while performing an autopsy, and the stuff she says immediately got this movie, like, I think on the video nasty was it had to, and she's just saying all this horrible stuff about cutting the things outside and inside, and you're just, what is going on? Oh my god, lady! And it's just a really great scene, and we kind of learn that there's a devil in the details, glowing eyes in the cellar, possessing, and we have kind of a horrible murder, kind of a couple murders in the very beginning. Francostapi really kind of downplaying everything. She's the head nun, but we have this priest come in. He's trying to change things, and we have kind of more of a priest in the element of geez, what is the actor's name who comes in here? He's one of these kind of actors. I'll know his name right when I see him. Oh, Carlo Del Mayo. He comes in as like this young priest, and we have the classic, he's like, it's scientific or it's psychological. There's no possession, and we have that whole religious superstition versus scientific kind of psychological aspect, which is so prevalent in a lot of these Italian and Spanish nunsploitation films, and even French. So we have that going on. Carlo Del Mayo was obviously in the year before. He was in, oh geez, help me out here. Isn't he in, he's in Terror Express, and he's in City of the Living Dead. You guys would recognize him right away. He's in a slew of films, and he plays that main priest. But a lot of it is kind of a mystery, figuring out what happens, and is there actually a superstitious detail about it. We as the audience would believe so, unless somebody's downstairs with glowing eyes. But yeah, there's a lot of sleazy stuff going on. Francostapi is good, and yeah, it's solid. It never really reaches the heights of the opening here, and I guarantee this music is the same music from Beyond the Darkness, because the score is amazing. It looks pretty good and sounds pretty good. I mean, it's a low budget, cheap, dirty ass movie, so it's kind of hard to rate how it looks, you know what I mean? But it's a Severn film. Obviously Claudio Fragazzo possibly co-directed this or directed it, wrote the script for it with his like partner Drudy. But of course, this movie was shot on the set while they were shooting another movie at the same time, nights and days. So they're both co-directing both of these movies. But this is a fun film with decent gore effects and a nice crypt. And I love my nunsploitation movies, and this one is good stuff. And it's what, people always think Bruno Mattei is absolute garbage, but he made some pretty entertaining stuff, especially in the 80s. Next up, we have another 1981 movie, and this is by Norman J. Warren, a British director, and this is Inseminoid, aka Horror Planet, starring Judy Geeson. Judy Geeson was in a Hammer film. She's in some other films. You'd recognize her right away, and that's pretty much kind of the main actor I would recognize from this film. But what happens is we have a group of astronauts, or I don't even know what they're astronauts, miners, scientists, whatever the alien crew you'd call, or aliens crew, and they're 12 of them, and they're on this kind of this rock or this planet, and they're kind of mining stuff like that. And what happens is they come across this weird crystal, and there's an explosion. One guy goes catatonic, he's kind of out of it, and the other guy, he gets cut by these crystals, and he starts to lose his grip on his sanity, starts to get violent and lash out. They kind of go back out to figure out what's going on, and eventually Judy Geeson is raped by this gross kind of alien, and she's pregnant, but she also goes mad because the crystals. People start getting picked off, some by the monster, some by Judy Geeson, some got killed because they went nuts, all this kind of stuff. And it's a big alien ripoff, but it's decent, it's gory. There's a couple really gory scenes, to be honest, that are above and beyond. There's somebody that gets their leg trapped, and they have to kind of try to cut their leg off to save their lives because they can't get free from something. That's a effective scene. It ends on a pretty kind of crazy downbeat ending. Is it a downbeat exactly? But it leaves it open. It does leave it open, if I'm not mistaken, 100%. But the movie's pretty wild. This is the first one I watched for the week, so I can't remember. I feel like the ending was more downbeat than you would register. But there's a high body count. Like I said, there's 12 characters, and not many of them make it. But and the gore is decent. The sets are decent. This one's pretty solid. I need to watch some more Norman J. Warren movies. I feel like Pete Walker, I neglected the most in my horror film knowledge. And when you're talking like kind of that time frame, because that's usually my time frame, and I watch tons of directors work from there. Norman J. Warren, I think I've only seen one. Same with Pete Walker, and I know it's shame, but I will get on it eventually, right? But Inseminoid, pretty decent film. As far as the special features are concerned, we have a very English exploitation, Inseminoid and shock cinema of Norman J. Warren, a 90-minute documentary, basically talking about his career. I watched some of that. That's really good. Featuring contributions from Warren, actress Jennifer Ashley, visual effects artist Jez Harris, screenwriter and critic David McGilvery, author Kim Newman, and filmmaker Pete Walker. That's very cool. Speak of the devil. Archival new audio interview with Norman J. Warren, alien comment interview with Norman J. Warren, Q&A producer Richard Gordon and Norman J. Warren, and then we have another Q&A with Norman J. Warren, a Q&A with he has several Q&As here. So if you haven't seen Inseminoid, I would recommend it. Pretty fun alien kind of style film. Okay, the next up is the Patreon pick, and I can't remember who picked this. I think it's Nick Mua, and he picked William Castle's Homicidal. Okay, so anyways, I had never seen Homicidal, but I had heard about it. I knew it was kind of Hitchcock, William Castle's take on Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. What year was this one made? I can't remember. Definitely 61. So a year after Psycho. So they struck when the iron was hot. This is a Mill Creek release. Good good picture quality. Obviously, you could probably import a Powerhouse, the company I can't think of. They do a really good job, and I know they had like these old kind of William Castle sets, which I missed out on. But so what we have here is Homicidal, and so like I knew the twist, but it still took me about 2 minutes to remember it, and I was like, oh, that's what's going on here. So we have here in the very beginning, we have this really great scene where this beautiful woman kind of enters this hotel, and she's talking to this guy, and the bellhop, she says, will you get married to me? And she offers him a bunch of money to go get married, and right in the very beginning, she murders basically the judge, the cleric judge, or the marriage judge that, is marrying them late at night, and you're just like, what is going on here? And she kind of runs away. And then we kind of like move to her and see what she's up to, and she's like taking care of this old woman who can't speak, and she's terrified of her, and she's also married to the son of this woman, and they have she has a sister-in-law. And you kind of hear the history of the family. It's very gothic, you know what I mean? Who gets monies and all these kind of things. And the brother starts to come around as well. And the brother is sticking up because he's married to, of course, this woman. And he starts sticking up for her and everything like that. It's not very hard to tell what's going on here, but it's clever in a lot of ways how they do it. And it did take me a couple minutes to register what was happening, remember what was happening. The acting is really good in here. The plot twists are really fun. They even go down to the point where they even do the same ending with Psycho, what Simon Oakland kind of explains everything. They do exactly that. There's a couple solid death scenes here. There's a fright pause, which is absolutely ridiculous, but William Castle had to have his gimmicks. There is a rolling head, which I think is effective. This one is solid. This is a good film. There's a bit of police investigation, which is all right. So Homicidal is a really fun kind of B-movie Hitchcock style thing by William Castle. I mean, it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. All right, let's get in these questions, comments, concerns, all that jazz. D Gulags 3733. I can't believe that I missed 2 episodes in a row for the first time in about 9-ish years. I swear I'll never let this happen again. All praise Mrparka. I'm just joking. That's pretty good. No worries, man. Thanks for watching. Nick Mua. The Boogeyman sure is a weird one. I prefer Mr. Lamel's The Tenderness of Wolves myself, but the Cat Ellinger commentary could just be worth the upgrade. Don't antique mirrors just give you the willies? He says also Showgirls on 4K. What the fuck, crazy, right? I love Ulai Lamel's Tenderness of the Wolves. I like his Devonsville Tear. I think the Boogeyman's just really wacky and not in a great way. 1. Do you have any of the Powerhouse, aka Indicator Hammer box sets? If so, how do you like them? I do not. I do have a couple of their single releases, like These Are the Damned, which I love that movie. I haven't got a chance to pop in the Indicators yet. 2. Why do you think Paul Verhoeven was so successful in the U.S. while many foreign directors aren't? I think that his satire is obvious enough and smart enough to catch the audience, and it's very funny. And also, he gives you the sugar with the salt, with the medicine, right? RoboCop is vastly entertaining. Total Recall is vastly entertaining. All his Starship Troopers, his movies are just really entertaining. So on top of having this satire or this message in it and being funny about it or witty, he also is adding tremendous amounts of nudity or violence or just entertainment value. So that's Paul Verhoeven's also just good. That's a big chunk of it too, and he's approachable. I agree that the longer cuts aren't necessarily better. Have you ever seen the longer cut of Caligula featuring Helen Mirren and Malcolm McDowell? Those poor monkeys. I have. It's been years, but some of that stuff I'm sure is better than that. Hope you're having a better weather over there. Keep it easy. Great episodes always. Thank you. Mad Science Films. I knew Gary Graham on Robot Jocks best as the James Caan cop character in the TV adaptation of Alien Nation. Absolutely loved Arena and Robot Jocks as a kid. And I haven't seen that Alien Nation show since I was a kid. Trev Girl. Oh, Fighting Back. Lesser known 80s vigilante flick. I think a stage vet Patti LuPone played the wife. Indeed she did. Do you remember the Young Warriors, Defiance, Enemy Territory, and Sig Shore's Sudden Death? I haven't seen all those. I know what they are. Enemy Territory I've watched and covered on here. That's good stuff. Elk Vomit 88. I can't believe it was only just a couple years ago when I realized that the Big Bopper was in Dolls. Tipsy Bones. Thanks for another good video. Thank you. Collectus. I like Showgirls. It's pretty fun. Very cool to know. Way Up Dude. 1382. Face blue smiling face. Back at ya. Travis Linscomb. 620. I really liked Witch's Mountain. But yeah, it's a slow building and atmosphere and a well done folk horror from Spain, but nothing crazy. Indeed. Ken Coakley 3959. I watched Fighting Back a few days ago for the first time since 1982. It still stands the test of time. It reminded me of Vigilante in terms of atmosphere, for sure. I was furious over the dog's death because I'm a dog lover. I did like the opening scene. I was born in 1966, but my mother told me that when JFK was assassinated, the world had lost its innocence. Another great man, Martin Luther King, was assassinated 5 years later, as was RFK. Yeah, of course, that's a big history. Plays right into like the film history too, as well, with the tone of films changing. The cast was really good as well. Tom Skerritt did a good job at doing the rough stuff, as he was almost 50 years old at the time. Patti LuPone is a celebrated stage actress who was in Witness and Driving Miss Daisy. I was surprised by Yelfet Koda's appearance because I didn't see the opening credits. Michael Cerasan, who played Vince the cop, was one of my favorite actors. He starred in the reincarnation of Peter Proud, Frankenstein: The True Story, Eye of the Cat, among others. Speaking of favorite actors, I want to mention the passing of another favorite, Treat Williams, star of Dead Heat. He was killed in a motorcycle accident last week. He first came to my attention in 1979 when my sister took me to see Hair. He looked like my brother-in-law with the long hair. When he did I Got Life, I turned to my sister and whispered, I want to do this when I get older. So Treat Williams and Tony Burton from the Rocky films were my main influences when I decided to be an actor. But his sheltering mother put a stop to that. But I want to thank Treat Williams, Tony Burton, and Michael Cerasan. Sorry, I know his name, but I'm really tired right now, for the great movie memories. See, now I should have said R.I.P. on my page about Treat Williams, because Treat Williams was an actor that I had a huge fondness of growing up, because now he's done a lot of good movies. He's great in Hair, Deep Rising, whatever, But a movie that was near and dear to my heart was Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. And when you watch a movie like that, you kind of point out whoever all the characters are as your friends when you're young. And my friend Joe was like, I swear you're just like Critical Bill, who plays Treat Williams. He is so funny. I was a lot like him, I guess. As a kid, just hyper, crazy, nuts. And he's so good in that movie. I Am Godzilla, You Are Japan. Treat Williams, R.I.P. Excellent in Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. By far the best character. Just absolute wild man. He don't mind much. He's really good stuff. That's a very underrated movie. It kind of came out after like the big Tarantino kind of stuff, when all those like kind of crime films were coming out. But just a great film. R.I.P. Treat Williams. Thanks for the movies. Thanks for the memories. Agreed. So we're going to hop into that update. All right, first up, we got some from the Target sale. Buy two, get one. Bubba Ho-Tep on 4K. I love this movie. Don Coscarelli, great film. Bruce Campbell's never been better. Ossie Davis is great in it. Daniel Roebuck's in here. Reggie Bannister. Just a really fun movie. You know what? I really like this one. And when it came out, my dad's he wasn't the biggest horror fan. He liked a couple. He's more of a Western kind of guy. But I remember him watching this. I don't know where he saw it, but he caught it on TV and he watched it a couple times. He really got a kick out of Bruce Campbell's performance. He liked that. He's quoting it a little bit. And then we have another 4K upgrade here by Wes Craven, People Under the Stairs. This was a favorite of mine growing up. It's not held up as well, to be honest. I still like the movie a lot. It's just not as good as I thought as a kid, you know what I mean? But it's still cool and fun. I love Wes Craven. I love this movie. I definitely will be watching that 4K down the line. Then we have, of course, for a few dollars more, Clint Eastwood, the second in the Man with No Name trilogy by Sergio Leone. This is a great film. Lee Van Cleef, of course. And we got Gian Maria Volante, who's an excellent actor, underrated actor. He's great in A Citizen Above Suspicion. But anyways, this one might be my favorite of the trilogy. This is the great one at the end with Luigi Pistilli, and they're counting the bodies, and he's coming around the corner, and they have him on the wagon. That's a great movie, man. Love that one. Classic. Ennio Morricone score, of course. And then we have How Can You Have One Without the Other? I already have Good and Bad Ugly, but now we got Fistful of Dollars on 4K. Another freaking classic here. The story's been done a few times. The Last Man Standing, Yojimbo, is based off a book, Red Sun, which I'd like to read. So, yeah, and it also has Volante in here as well as Clint Eastwood. The two families, what is it, the Rojo family and the other ones, he pits them against each other and they kill each other, yada, 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 and he comes in and takes everything. Classic spaghetti western, great stuff. Then we have another one, 4K here, upgrade, Dressed to Kill, Brian De Palma, 1980, classic film, Michael Caine, Angie Dickinson, top-notch performance in here. Who can't love Nancy Allen? Dennis Franz, Keith Gordon. This is a great movie. One of the best deaths in 1980. One of the best cinematography uses in the elevator. Just great stuff. Score by Pino Donaggio, I'm pretty sure. Great stuff. Look forward to watching it at 4K. Then we have a bootleg here, and I couldn't help but pick this up. This is Lost Souls from 1980. Now, I have the DVD, and I know that there is a Blu-ray you can pick up, but it's not English friendly. This incorporates the English language and the English dub. and the subtitles if you want to watch it in Cantonese. But this is Lost Souls. This is a super brutal Shaw Brothers movie. Excellent movie. Quite recommend it if nobody's ever seen The Lost Souls. But yeah, it's good. Anyways, that is the update. Back to the video. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.